Okay. Councilor Green.
Thank you, Madam President. Item 9A authorizes the city to exceed the tax cap. Any questions on this item? Thank you.
Thank you. All righty, I have item 10. And yes, I'm going to call that one ready. Councilor Caldwell.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have items 11 through 13. Julie? I think, yeah, come on up, please. Just to do a review of 11, 12, and 13 really quick.
Absolutely. Julie LaFave, Commissioner of Parks and Recreation. Item number 11 was to appropriate funds to be paid to the Syracuse Parks Conservancy as part of we have an MOU with them. They provide the Parks Department help in many ways throughout the year. Item 12 and 13 are related. This is authorizing funds from the CIP for $40,000 for a shade structure or pavilion, if you will, at Berry Park.
Did we find out exactly where on Berry Park we were going to put it yet?
No, we'll do public engagement. The neighbors have noted next to the basketball court as well as next to the playground, but we will work specifically with Berry Park Association as well as the soccer, everybody who uses the park.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
All right, I'll call these ready. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Green.
Thank you, Madam President. Item 14 has to do with the budget. So there's a series of amendments which we can come to at the end. Item 15 is a approval for Bonadillo Group to do audits. Any questions on that item? Item 16 and 17, Camino Technologies relating to permitting. Any questions on those? Item 18 is a correction of the tax rolls. And item 19 is the transfer of funds. Unless there's any questions, those items are ready.
Thank you. Councilor Majuk. Oh,
You can take it.
No, go ahead. So item 20 is a resolution urging New York State to pass a good cause eviction bill. And you all know here in the city of Syracuse, our residents are struggling with housing issues, and we just want to make sure that as they struggle with housing issues and raise questions, that they are heard and not retaliated after once they voiced their concerns. Thank you.
President Hudson, I still have a lot of questions regarding this legislation. I talked initially with Councilor Green. I've talked to Councilor Driscoll about it. So as far as the state legislation goes, I would need more questions answered in order to support something like this. I know other cities have had issues trying to do this by themselves, and I think the decision is made for the state to do it. I read the state legislation, and I still have a lot of questions. So I just wanted to make that statement. Thank you.
all righty. So all right. Thank you. Councilor Paniagua.
Good afternoon and thank you. I have items 21 to 25. Item 21, which is the agreement with United Way of Central New York on behalf of the Literacy Coalition of Onondaga County. If there are no additional questions, it's ready. Item 22, due to local law, is the labor agreement with local 1773. I will introduce and table. Item 23, again based on local law, I will hold. Then item 24, which is the labor agreement with the Central of Northern New York Building Trades Council, I will introduce and table. And number 25, based on the same local law process, I will hold. That's me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Hogan.
Thank you, President Hudson. I have items 26, 27, and 28, and I will introduce them and urge their adoption if my fellow councilors don't have any questions regarding this.
So Councilor Hogan, I would ask you hold 26 for a committee meeting, and I would like to have engineering department there. I want DPW there, and I also want the city arborist there as well.
Okay. Number
26.
26? So,
Yes.
so Counselor Majuk, you'll hold that committee meeting in your council district, correct?
Okay, I can do that, yes, I can do that.
Thank you, President Hudson.
Thank you. So 27, 28, ready?
27, 28 are ready.
Thank you. Counselor Majuk.
Thank you, Madam President. I have item 29 and 30, and they are both ready unless anyone has questions. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Allen.
Thank you. I have items 31 through 47. Michelle, you can let us know if we had any redemptions over the weekend.
Yep. Good afternoon, Michelle Spansky, Deputy Commissioner of Neighborhood Development. The only update that we have is item 33. We request to withdraw that property as they paid at the end of last week.
Okay. So we're going to withdraw items 33, 39, and 45.
Correct.
And we're going to hold items 31 and 32. And all other items are ready. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam President. I have items 48 through 54. Item 48 needs to be held until after item 14 is voted on. But the other items, 49 through 54, are ready, and yeah, they're all ready to go.
All righty, thank you. Counselor Green.
Hey, Madam President, I have the waiver items, which are the budget amendments. So item 55 is a amendment to authorize a not to exceed amount of $300,000 for DPW to develop a safe streets manual, which will allow future paving and infrastructure projects to be pre-designed so that they are done in a safe manner for pedestrians and vehicles. Any questions on this item? Item 56 is similar, $300,000 to authorize a study which will go through the auditor's office for police staffing and deployment. Any questions on this item? Item 57 was spearheaded by Councilor Hogan. Do you want to say anything on this one, Councilor? This TNT?
No, I just, I would urge everybody to support this because of the job TNT does in our neighborhoods across the city. Thank you.
Okay. Item 58 is an increase DPW budget $75,000 for a road reconstruction manager. And as we discussed in previous meetings, this is specifically to for road cuts. So increasingly, as we're paving more roads, we want to make sure they stay in good condition. So someone help manage that process for outside agencies like National Grid and even within the water department to make sure when we're doing road cuts, we're doing them safely and effectively. Any questions on that item? Item 59 is $61,000 to create a new position within the Department of Assessment, and this will be specifically to manage and dispose of city-owned assets. So properties that the city is looking to sell or lease out, having someone be dedicated to that to hopefully generate more revenue for the city. Questions on that? Item 60 is $50,000 to increase the budget of the Citizen Review Board to add an additional position. Any questions on that item?
Yes, is this in addition to the position we have already created, or is this a new one in addition?
This is an amendment to the submitted budget, so it's an addition to.
It's in addition to the one that we had added this year? Okay, I think last year as a council, we had expressed that having at least one position for the CRB to see how we do, kind of made sense last year and this year. And the reason it didn't pass last year because many councilors have expressed that let's put one position in first and see where we go, and then we end up somehow made a mistake along the way and added two positions, and it just sent everybody off. I would still stand by that this year and say, the position that the CRB administrator, myself, and budget director Rod put in the budget this year, I think we should stay on that, and just let's not add another one. That's what I would suggest.
Raynette, do you want to just clarify what the additional position and what you'd intend to use it for?
Good afternoon, Raynette Relaford, Administrator for the Citizens Review Board. The additional staff that we put in originally for the budget was for our data analysis. We create reports on a quarterly basis and on a annual basis. And there are times when there are issues that the citizens ask us to talk about, and we don't have enough staff to do that. So the data analysis was going to work along with myself to do that. So that's the position that's in the budget. This additional position that we are asking for, we have community engagement needs that we need to be doing within the Common Council districts. We're supposed to hold one every month in each Common Council district, and we're not able to fulfill that as of right now because of the amount of time that it takes for me to do everything. So pretty much, I do the data analysis position, the community engagement specialist position. Also, we were asking for a policy analysis. So the $50,000 budget is going to assist us in those roles and aspects. It's definitely needed. It's actually the bare minimum that we are asking, and we would hope that the council would please support this, as our department has been the same size since its creation in 1993. We continue to increase the number of complaints that we process every year. We get about 100 complaints a year, so 2 people handling that is just not enough appropriate staff. So I would urge the council, please support the additional staff position for the CRB because it's definitely needed so that we can continue to progress and continue to build the trust between the community and the police department, and that's what the CRB needs.
So I get the work of CRV is critical, and in addition to the staff that we are giving you, Ray, you also have board members, right? And part of that is because I was a part of Human Rights Commission with the county, and part of our job was to make sure that we made sure that the community was engaged, and that we were out in the community to make sure that the work of the Human Rights Commission, which is somewhat a reflection of the CRB in some way here in the city. I just feel like, you know, it would make sense to try with this new position first, considering that in the next 2 years, our fiscal state as a city, we don't know where it would be with ARPA money gone. I just don't want us to continue to create all these positions whereby 2 years, 3 years from now, we don't know what to do with them, you know? So that's where I stand, councilors, and I think it makes sense to just leave one position at the moment.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Okay. You know, Council, I just think it's important now. We have a new police chief. You know, anything we can do to foster trust in the community between the police and the community, I think we should go ahead and do. I think Renette's done a great job, and she says she needs another staffer. I'm okay with it. And thank you.
I would also like to say, I agree with you, Councilor Hogan. I think with everything going on in our community, the lack of distrust, the lack of the support, that we need to change that narrative. And I think with getting someone out in the community to be that support, to help follow up with the 100 complaints, and then there's probably more, just people don't even know the process. I think it would be valuable for our community as we continue to grow and foster a better place to live. So I think with that said, that I think this is something that needs to be done. Thank you.
And not to go back and forth, I do understand that.
Right.
And I think with when we choose board members, we choose them strategically. And part of our strategy is to make sure that these people are well informed in the community and they continue to do work in the community. This would be a chance for our board, CRB board, to step up and and do more in the community and continue to do more.
Well, Councilor Majok, we'll just call and vote.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Item 61, Councilor Majuk, actually, this is your initiative. Do you want to talk about this one?
So as a city that house so many people around the world, and every year our city is a growing city with neo-Americans, I think it's time to be able to have a person that would be able to coordinate the neo-Americans community issues. There's a lot of population of neo-American here, and for example, with pandemic, the city was scrambling, trying to have neo-Americans be vaccinated and be engaged. You talk about, fire department wanting to have more neo-American on the force. You talk about police. You talk about Jimmy Oliver wanting to reach out to neo-Americans to engage them, to have them be more included in the city, and they are staying isolated. This position would really help bring that community population closer to our city and be able to help. There's so many of us here as neo-American leaders that are consistently called upon to help, and we got jobs, we got lives, and just having a liaison that would be able to help the city and other organization here is really important, that we continue to promote the city, that continue to welcome neo-Americans. So this position that I heard my fellow councilors to consider. Just one.
And any other questions on this?
Yeah, I got a question, because I want to ask. So help me understand, Councilor Majok, because when you talk about the minority affairs, I think that we're all minorities. So are we going to create a position for every minority?
Well, Madam President, when you look at the neo-Americans, their need, the need of language, the need of culture is another level. And being able to cater to this growing population makes sense. And I'm not saying that with every minority we're going to create a position. When you look at neo-American, they are a reflection of every single person in this room, not just one minority group, but they are a reflection of everybody worldwide. And this is why it's so important. They are struggling with culture, language, and everything else in this city, and having somebody in that position to be able to facilitate that process makes sense. You going to take that, Commissioner?
Yeah, Councilor, Michael Collins, Commissioner of Neighborhood and Business Development. I couldn't hear your question, Councilor, but I saw eyes looking my way, so I thought I'd wander around.
I was just asking who would be, like, where would this person fall under in the departments? Would it be under Neighborhood Business Development, or which department in the city would they follow?
So Councilor Majek and I have talked about this being a position within Neighborhood and Business Development that would very specifically work with all of the existing agencies that interact with and support refugees, and begin a more formal interaction between these entities and city government, which to date has not been to the degree of which it could be.
So it would be kind of like the constituent services position that we used to have that we no longer have?
So actually it would be different than a constituent services, because this is not to be able to work with individuals one-on-one is more of a program than an individual, and we're talking about an individual. There are strong programs in the community right now that this would be looking to develop more coordination among those entities, make sure city government is informed on everything that's happening, so that if there are things that come in from a constituent level, we'd be able to turn right around and steer them to the right entities, but also those entities would be reporting back to us on a more regular basis on their offerings and their concerns.
Okay, and then how would you guys, obviously it's a new program, so how would you measure the success of this? Just that the new American population has been informed about different services that are going on in the community?
So those metrics are the type of thing that we would work to set up once the council decides, considering the council decides to establish the position, is exactly that. What does success look like? What we do know, I personally have a background in working in refugee resettlement specific to housing and supporting ethnic community-based organizations. I did that for a number of years. What we do know is that there is each community comes with different skill sets, different strengths, but also different identities. And so how do we make sure that, to the best of their ability, they are interacting with the groups that already exist in within the city so that they can integrate as successfully and quickly as possible?
Commissioner Collins, this will be inclusive of all new Americans, including the Hispanic ones and Asian and everything.
Correct, Councilor. That's the intent. Absolutely. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions on item 61? Director Rudd, I'll have you come up for the remaining amendments as they're a little more technical.
The remaining
Just take
one.
us line by line, 62 all the way down.
62 is a Social Security adjustment, which is adding a little bit more to the code based on the new positions, the 4 new positions that were created.
So just backing up, I mean, so 62, 63, 64,
It's like
these are all items that are going in because we're adding new positions and there's fringe benefits associated with it. So everyone's clear.
Exactly. All 4 positions will have fringe costs, so we're adding Social Security. Then 63 is the pension system for non-uniform employees. Then a increase to the healthcare. And then 65. Then it starts the revenue changes.
Yeah, so I mean, I can talk about this. 65 is additional revenue that we are adding in by virtue of the fact that we're adding the position in Department of Assessment to sell or lease additional city properties. So we project we'll add an additional $500,000 by having that person focused on that. And then item 66 and 67 are the additional revenue increases that are used to fund the additional budget amendments. So 277,310 from ARPA federal aid, and then 363,213 from additional use of fund balance. And then
And there's one technical adjustment of like $90,000 that our tax levy changed a little bit because the state adjusted our assessed value a little bit. So really the split between fund balance and ARPA is 50-50, but that 90,000 got added to the fund balance. So it looks like there's a little more fund balance change than ARPA.
Okay. And then do you want to speak to the school district amendments?
And then the school district just lowered their state aid by 8.3 million, and they kind of took it from the respective codes that they deemed most appropriate.
Okay. Any questions on these items? Okay. Well, before we close, Madam President, I just want to say it's been a long month or however long it's been for a budget. So I'm grateful for all of my fellow counselors, Director Rudd and his team, the clerk, and also Joe Barry in Law and everyone else that worked on it. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Can I add one thing back to number 57, which I should have already commented, but I wasn't going to, but here I am. So I just first want to say that I agree with Councilor Hogan that TNT does a great job with bringing the community together, especially during a time where we're coming out of a pandemic and people are so disconnected. It's actually one of the reasons why I wanted to serve on the council was the community engagement part, which I think is the lifeblood and where we really can find success. However, I just am doing these numbers over and over again, and with TNT just getting granted the $250,000 for the 2-year mural project, and also there's $85,000 in this budget currently, I'm just not understanding why we're adding another $60,000, which would bring their total for this next fiscal year to $270,000. So I don't know if anybody wants to comment on that, but I just want to put it out there to say that's a lot of money. And also, the question is, going forward, are we going to need to continue to fund TNT at this level in order to sustain?
Jimmy Monto on behalf of Tomorrow's Neighborhoods today. So I think there's a couple questions in there. Let me try to answer all of them in one sweep. The $250,000 that came in from ARPA for the mural project is for one specific project. So that money is TNT money to go towards a mural project across the city. That's it. Once it's spent, it's gone. The $80,000 that we received from the city that budget has been stagnant for many years. $40,000 go to the neighborhoods for special projects. The other 40 go to administration. So that is Tina's salary, copiers, insurance, and that insurance covers not only TNT projects, but we also add people to our insurance policy. With Councilor Allen does a back-to-school kickoff every year. We insure her kickoff through our insurance, adding her as an insured. We do that for lots of other organizations. We also insure anybody that we fiscally sponsor throughout the year, basketball programs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I could go on. So to answer your question, is my hope that the mayor's budget next year is the 60 from you plus the 80 from him? Yes, because we will spend it on neighborhood projects. The $60,000 that you're going to vote on today, 54,000 of it is going to go directly into special projects. So we're going to go in front of the neighborhood groups, all 8 sectors. We're going to stand up and say, what do you want to do with this $11,000? I'm hopeful that they will take some of the money and use it towards marketing and outreach and getting the community into those meetings, which is very difficult to do, as you know. In some sectors, it's more difficult than others. Your district is the north side of Syracuse. It is a giant swath of area. Getting everybody to agree is impossible. Why? They're not living the same experience. The people that live on Sedgwick Drive are not living the same experience as the people on Division Street. Same thing in my neighborhood, Eastwood. I can tell you that one side of Eastwood is not living the same experience as the other side of Eastwood. And I will take you to every single district and every single sector, Councilor Driscoll's sector. Take me over to Parkside Commons. They are not living the same experience as Meadowbrook Drive. It is worlds apart. So getting them all to come to the table and say, you know what, I want police cameras. Well, we want $500 worth of flowers down the middle of Meadowbrook. That's never going to work. You're never going to agree to say, I want $500 for flowers and I want police cameras, because when they look out their front door, it is not the same neighborhood. So I don't know if I answered all your questions, but I will say that I hope that the city gives us $500,000, because I will spend it. I will help them to spend it in the neighborhoods to do the things that the city staff doesn't have the staffing to do. The city parks, Commissioner LaFave will tell you, she will agree with me, I will speak for her, she left, but we pick up some slack with volunteers, an army of volunteers that are not seen. They're not on TV every day, but they're out there doing the work. So sorry.
Let me ask you this. One of the things that we discussed, at council when this came up, it's the fact that there's not a reporting measure to see how the dollars are spent. But then when we talked, you said that was something that definitely could be, something that the TNT could do.
Yeah.
So to see how the monies were being spent and what projects were regions.
Sure.
So is that something that you would still continue to?
Absolutely.
It's just about accountability.
Absolutely.
That's all this is about.
So Councilor Beniagua, so in the past, so a very brief history of TNT, and I will be short. I'll try, Madam President. The TNT used to be an arm of the city, so it was a city department with a staffed position. But somewhere along the line, TNT split off as a 501c3.
Exactly.
So the ordinance that is in place still requires the city to support TNT, but we're on our own for everything else. So we luckily have Kerry Coaglia, who takes it upon his staff for $1,500 a year. They do all of our bookkeeping. On top of that, we have a 4-pronged system to keep everything in order. So we have a treasurer, a check signer, an approver, and then a fiscal agent, which is home headquarters. But at any time that you want dollars, I just call home headquarters and they will send us a report of what we have left.
That was kind of where I was going to go on with that, Jimmy, because I do recall, I think it was Councilor Hogan, myself, and Councilor Maroon, when he was a councilor, the TNT had the opportunity to stay under the leg of the city, and they chose to branch off on their own as a 501c3. and they said, I don't know if it was you were there at the time.
No, I wasn't.
That they would be responsible for fundraising to keep their projects afloat.
So, which is what we do. So what we have been able to do over the last 5 years, so I will tell you, 5 years ago, when I came into TNT, they had about $600 in the bank account. Our fund balance right now is about $100,000 with encumbered projects. So we have money that is encumbered for projects all over the city. That money has come in from other funders. So in the last 5 years, we've had all of the local funders add money to the TNT balance. So we're not just using the $80,000 that the mayor puts in his budget. We're using money from the Community Foundation and from the Gifford Foundation and from private donors. The city as a canvas is a great example. Private donors are jumping on board to say, let us figure out a way to help offset costs.
Do you audit? Do you do an audit?
So home headquarters, we're not required to do a full-scale audit like the city is because we don't bring in enough dollars. And the dollars that we do bring in are government grant dollars or granted. So for instance, the Gifford Foundation money that would come in, they audit that money and watch very carefully where we spend it. The same way with the Community Foundation. We file a Char 500, we file a 990, this like any other nonprofit, but our dollars have been under $250,000. This year we're in uncharted water because of the ARPA funding, so we have to figure out how we do that, but Joe Gorsuch has been...
Right, that's what I'm trying to understand on the reporting side, and how do we get the numbers and the accountability and what's being spent and what's coming in.
So Joe Gorsuch and Jennifer and I have been in constant communication with the ARPA funding. I know anybody who's read that, it's very, very tight how we have to report it, so that is, you know, we're in new waters with that, but as far as the other money goes, we've never had enough to go over the threshold.
I think, President, we're in new waters with a lot of programs that this council's approved, as a matter of fact, and I would probably have more implicit trust. And I remember TNT when we started, there was a schism between the former administration and TNT. I would have an implicit trust with Jimmy and his, what's it, one-person bureaucracy? That's Tina, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and all the monies that I see go out into the neighborhoods, and the tremendous amount of work that the volunteers do, specifically that west side part of, is unbelievable.
The pump track, yeah.
The amount of work that's gone into that. So I think that the council, as long as those reports are at the ready, I can't see anything wrong at all with giving you another 60,000. And in fact, we might even, maybe next year, we'll even give you an extra person.
So I think, and let me just say one more thing. I think the decision back then, I was not around for it to break off from the city. And I think there was some, I don't know if that was the administration's decision or TNT's decision, but in hindsight, it was probably the best thing they ever did because the ordinances are written in a way where TNT would not have been able to raise extra funds. Like it's written the way the Public Art Commission ordinance is written, where SPAC can't raise money for itself. All it can do is sit and rubber stamp. What SPAC can do is get together with TNT, which we're doing right now. That city as canvas. It's two city agencies, you know, two city bodies together working together. But what Councilor Hogan just said, the pump track on the west side was a big pile of dirt that someone said, let's create a bike track. TNT has raised $10,000. We've asked Assemblyman Magnarelli for $250,000 more. TNT wouldn't have been able to do that under the old way that they raised money. Now we can do things like that. So
many of these ideas come from the folks that go to TNT and the volunteers.
They all do.
This is all generated from bottom up.
They all do. I don't know what a pump track even is. I will fall off a bike for sure. But
I did. I knew what they were.
All right.
yeah.
Jimmy and I are going to find helmets for big heads.
So let me thank all of you.
I'm not even going to comment on that one.
You know, I rarely get the chance to stand up here and thank you for your support over the years because TNT this is the strongest they've ever been. I came into TNT after resisting it for a very long time, and I came in because we had a fight in my neighborhood because two neighbors did not want a basketball court across the street from their house, and it angered me in a way that I rarely get angry, and that's how I came into TNT, and Councilor Driscoll was there for that. And when I came in for that, I stayed because the organization needed help, and we're in better shape than we've been in a long time. So thank you, everybody who votes yes on everything we need.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jimmy.
All righty, and with that, I need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.